Hey guys, I thought I would share with you another trip planning video or another travel video. This one's going to be titled Trip Planning Frustrations. I think that's the perfect name for this one. So I thought I would share with you guys what I have been doing and where my frustrations have just arisen over this trip planning. So I have started to compare let's say land trips where you will sign up with a tour group and you'll fly to a certain place wherever you want to go, and then you will meet up with a tour group and usually at your hotel, and then stay wherever you're going to be staying 1 to 2 days, and then you will get on a bus and travel to the next city. So I was looking at those, and then I was looking at cruises. Well, somebody suggests, and I apologize, I don't remember who it is right now, but somebody suggests that I look at Disney Adventures. I think that's the one. And I have to tell you, they had some lovely sounding trips, but when I looked at the prices, they were more than I wanted to pay for just a trip alone. Now, typically, I like to refer to them as land trips, but a land trip will cover your bus travel. It will cover your hotel room, usually breakfast and usually supper. Some people call it dinner, the later evening meal, and usually lunch you have to pay for on your own, and then any snacks you've got to pay for. So typically that's what it's covered. Then any souvenirs that you buy obviously are extra. The tip for the, usually you have to tip your tour guide and your bus driver. It's good to do that, obviously. I'm not against that whatsoever, but that's an extra cost that's not included usually. And then you've got to pay for your airfare. And then with some of these tour groups, some of the excursions, let's say excursions or events, I'm not really sure whatever you want to call it, but they are optional and you have to pay extra for those. So keep that in mind with those. You just really have to do your research. And so that Disney trip was about $7,000, and I didn't go too much in depth in looking at that. When I saw that it was like $6,000, I thought, ooh, maybe not. But there's another thing I will be getting to in just a few minutes. But keep in mind, I am traveling as a single passenger. It will not be going double occupancy. So when you travel as a single passenger, you have to pay double a lot of times. So I think that Disney tour may have been based on double occupancy. I didn't look much past the $6,000. So then I started looking at different cruises. And here is where the most of my frustration it's just really frustrated me. And let's get started on that. So I started looking at cruises. So I love Norwegian Cruise Line, but I was looking at Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, Carnival. That was the top 3 that I was looking at. I didn't do Holland American. Not that I'm against them. I've cruised with Holland American before. They are a great cruise line. I believe they're also owned by Carnival. Just as a side little bit of trivia, I heard one time that Carnival owns 50% of the cruising industry. So even if you're not traveling on a Carnival ship, there's like a 50% chance that you are traveling with a ship that belongs to Carnival. So just thought if anybody was interested, just a little bit of trivia there. So I love Norwegian Cruise Line, and so I started looking at, I did look at Carnival first. There wasn't too much that was interesting me with Carnival, or maybe it was Royal Caribbean. One of those two didn't really have a lot of options in Europe, and the other one did, and I can't remember for the life of me which one now did and didn't. So I knew Norwegian Cruise Line had a lot of European cruises, so I thought, okay, that's where I'm going to start. So I found what I thought was the perfect cruise to take, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so perfect. So I jumped down to look at the dates and pricing, and they are only cruising one time for this particular cruise in 2016. I have a conflict that week and cannot go. So I was like, oh, great. So I said, okay, let me keep looking. So I found another cruise that I'm like, this is perfect. It was even cheaper than that cruise, the other one. And so I thought, oh my goodness, I believe it goes to 7 countries in Europe, which thrills me no end. Yes, you don't get to spend a lot of time in each one of those countries, but it gives you a taste of each one of those, and you might decide, or I might decide that, hey, I want to go back the next year and actually spend more time in those places. So I found it. It, again, sells one time in 2016. It goes in the early fall, I would say, right about the time we switch over to fall. And it hits some of the places that I want to see and goes to more places that I didn't even think about. So right now I do not have a conflict with that date. So I thought, great. It was a 2-week cruise. The price said for an inside cabin $1,449, which is not bad at all for a 2-week cruise. I thought that was a great deal for somebody that's kind of an experienced cruiser. I mean, I've been on 7 cruises, so I do have some experience. I mean, compared to some other people, I'm still like a baby at it, but overall, you know, I'm an experienced cruiser. So for a 2-week cruise, I thought that was a pretty good deal to Europe. Well, then I decided to start looking at airline tickets, and I went, oh my goodness, the prices are crazy outrageous, just outrageous. I looked at United, I looked at American and Virgin Atlantic, and I believe that the United price stands out in my mind. Like the cheapest one was $2,300 for a one-way ticket. This cruise leaves from Copenhagen and ends in Barcelona. So I'm going to have to buy 2 one-way tickets, one to Copenhagen and then from Nashville to Copenhagen, and then one from Barcelona back to Nashville. So one way to Copenhagen, $2,300. And I was like, no, you know, just screaming. Not really, but sort of like that. So I started talking to some different people that have traveled a lot, and a friend of mine lived in Iceland at one point. She says, hey, you really need to look into Iceland Air. They're a discount airlines. The prices are usually really, really good. And so I started looking at that. Here is the first problem, is that Iceland Air does not fly into Nashville, Tennessee. So they do fly into certain places in the U.S. So one of the places I saw, I'm pretty sure it was Baltimore was one of them, maybe somewhere out of D.C. as well, and Chicago. So the one out of Baltimore, from Baltimore to Copenhagen, was about 500 something. The one from Chicago was, I want to say $444 is what sticks in my mind. I thought, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to book Iceland Air. So then I said, well, how am I going to get to Baltimore or Chicago? Still a great distance away. I know Baltimore would be something like 12, 13, 14-hour drive. So I thought, you know, I'm really going to have to get another plane ticket to fly out there. And then same thing with Chicago. Chicago's much closer to Nashville. I've only flown to Chicago, so I'm not sure the drive, but I want to say 4 hours, but I may be completely wrong. It may be 6 hours, but it's less than half of the distance to Baltimore. So I thought, you know what? I'll just fly Southwest. There, you can usually fly Southwest one way, like $100-something bucks, sometimes even less if they're having a deal. So I jumped on to Southwest website and started looking, and this cruise is so late in the year that Southwest has not opened up those dates to that time. They ended like a month before that time. So I was like, great, I can't even book that one yet. So no, granted, I will tell you this, I was not ready to book at this point. I'm just searching. So initially, it's looking pretty good. I've got, a cruise that's $1,449, Iceland Air that we're looking maybe $400 to $500 one way. And I did also, on a side note, look to see what you could, luggage-wise, what you could take. So Iceland Air, I believe you can get, depending on what class of seat you're sitting in, whether it's economy or much more advanced. I believe the economy, you get one bag up to 50 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms, or is it kilograms? Yeah, I think so. I don't know what that is in that, but I think 50 pounds, which is kind of normal. And then you get a carry-on bag and then a small personal item. So that's perfect for me. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. So I believe that was included in the price. I'm going to do more research later just to make sure. So again, my frustrations were, I've got to wait, and I want to make sure when I am ready to pay for this that it's like bam, bam, bam. I book everything all at the same time, or at least within a few minutes of each other. So So right now I'm in a holding pattern with that. So I ended up emailing, I have a cruise consultant that I've used before. He's a super nice guy with Norwegian Cruise Line. So I sent him an email and I said, hey, what is the lowest price you can get me on this cruise? So he called me and I had to end up calling him back. So I called him back, and then between the time I emailed him and returned his phone call, I went on Norwegian site and just started booking it. That's the only way you can see how much the price is going to end up costing you. You don't have to obviously go all the way through, but you need to start booking it, and you do the add-ons. You do the government fees and port taxes. You just do several things. So I started doing that, and I realized right at that moment in time that I was going to have to pay double occupancy for this trip. So now the trip is up to $3,000. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. And I decided that I'm just going to stop the trip planning just for a month or two and just hold it and to save up more money. So that's where I'm now, and I thought I would share these trip frustrations with you today. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.